What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake, MLB DFS Wise stream, CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And of course, I'm from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed above or directly at wisetake.com if you're looking to take your DFS game to the next level. We are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community designed to help make you a better DFS player. Go check us out. Day Pass is available. All that goody. If you're new to this channel, welcome. You've come to the right place for some free, fire DFS content, covering MLB slates Monday through Friday. We do cover NBA. We'll be bouncing back with NBA next season and obviously some NFL. So don't miss out on any of the free stuff we put out. Subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and do dirties with the WiseTake Nation. Solid picks in the YouTube chat with the three baseballs as per usual. I think that means it's going to be a good day. Speaking of good days, we'll see how this day turns out. It's currently 10:27 p.m. Eastern, so that the late game's kind of just started. Not really sure where we stand, but how about them Rays? Not exactly a hot take, right? The Rays. But sometimes you have to they were just the best stack on the slate. And sometimes you just, kind of like how the White Sox were the other day, you just got to do it. I know we're accustomed to trying to fade chalk and get different, but sometimes you got to get different at different spots. You know what I mean? Anyway, hope you guys did well. That being said, we've got a 12-game slate, so a 14-game slate down to a 12-game slate. We're moving in the right direction. Still massive. I don't love these massive slates. I like that, 6 to 8 range. But it is what it is. We do what we do. Let's start things off, as we always do, with our top pitchers segment. And we're going to start things off with Clayton Kershaw. Kershaw looks good this year. Looks revamped. There was a point, I think, after he came back from his 47th injury that people thought Kershaw was going to be done. But Kershaw said, nah, bro. It's not how I roll. Problem is, if you look at the D-backs, only a 21.6% K rate against lefties. A 207 ISO. Highest, I think, in the league right now against lefties. A 348 WOBA and a 117 WRC plus. He's got his hands full, but it's still Clayton Kershaw. But not the ideal matchup. Corbin Burns, his numbers are the best, absolute best on a slate. He's dealt with a couple injuries. Mr. Pat Bush, what's going on, man? I see you in the YouTube chat. I know you were frequenting our NBA stuff, and I think it's about time, as you mentioned, you're hopping over to MLB to get down with the hood team. Shout out to you, Pat. Good to see you, bro. But Corbin Burns has the best actual numbers on the slate this season. He's playing a Royals team in Kansas City, mind you, a much better pitching park. That's been scrappy. 23.4% is it's there, right? It's not terrible. It's not great. It's just kind of there. 93 WRC plus 153 ISO. My concern is a little bit more with Burns. But I mean, on DraftKings for $200 cheaper, you're going to get some. In a very pitcher-friendly park. So I'm cool with him. He's got the better setup, I think, than Kershaw. Kershaw's got the sample. He's got the, we know what he is. He's been doing this a long time. Burns kind of just came on the scene last couple of years. But he looks good. Scherzer against the Cubs, one of the more interesting spots on the slate. Scherzer's numbers look awesome like they always do. He is an extreme fly ball pitcher, as he always is. Prone to home runs. He's playing the Cubs. If we look at the Cubs against righties, he's kind of middle of the road. They do strike out 25.8%. 162 ISO, 310 WOBA, 95 WRC plus. The thing is, we are, as of now, expected to have 10 to 15 miles an hour. I think it's somewhere like 13 right now. But we're anticipating winds 14 miles an hour, blowing out to left field. If they're blowing out at all in Wrigley, it's a big deal. And it's not a bad day, 73 degrees, 64% humidity. So that's a challenge, right? I wonder if that lowers the ownership on Mr. Max Scherzer. And it should, right? He's a fly ball guy. When he's not striking out, he's giving up homers and, But he's very fucking good at striking people out, though, right? Jack Flaherty will face the Pirates. We could take a look at them. One of the worst offenses in the league against righties in general. They don't strike out as much as you'd think. But a 116 ISO, 293 WOBA, 85 WRC plus. He looks good. Matchup is fine. I don't mind him. Right? Strikeout rate, we're starting to dip now. 25% is significantly lower than Scherzer and Burns. But the Sierra and XFIP are still solid. I think my issue with Flaherty is I don't think I'm saving enough. Maybe you could argue he's somewhat safer because of the matchup, but is he that much safer than Corbin Burns? Well, Pirates are pretty bad. I don't know. I just don't feel like I'm saving enough. John Means against Tampa. We know what Tampa's deal is. They strike out a lot. That we know. But Tampa's always been kind of streaky. 31.9% K rate against lefties. Tampa. 31.9%. 147 ISO, 287 WOBA. They've been bad against lefties. But the Rays are kind of streaky typically. They did just wake up. Do we see it again? More importantly, is Means for real? Because, he's looked like it. He's got a couple of factors, a couple of indications that luck could be turning against him. With a 182 BABIP, an XFIP that's more than double his ERA. But the 28% K rate, man, it is what it is, right? Something to keep an eye on. Trevor Rogers, as of right now, he was the one that kind of stood out to me. You could argue the regression thing. 289 BABIP is not bad. But he's looked really good, 32.6% K rate. And he's playing a Philly team that has a 29.6% K rate, a 157 ISO, and a 318 WOBA, 99 WRC plus. Actually, a sneaky, really good matchup. Park isn't great in Philly, very hitter-friendly park. But we're in that point now where on DraftKings at least, you're actually saving some money. 9-1, you're saving some money, right? Charlie Morton, 5.08 ERA. He's been on the other side of luck. XFIP and Sierra really aren't bad. Playing a New York Mets offense that has not shown a lot of power against righties with the 116 ISO. 297 WOBA, but only a 22.8% K rate. We expect to see Morton's numbers improve. We expect to see his results improve, I should say. Perhaps it's here. I think Zach Eflin against Miami is a very good matchup. Eflin, we know, got strong lefty-righty splits, but in general, he's really picked up his pace. He's just looked good, right? And if we look for Miami has a 26.3% K rate, a 128 ISO, and a 286 WOBA against lefties. Against righties right now. So yeah, I think Eflin's definitely in play. Significantly cheaper on DraftKings, if you notice, than on FanDuel. Corey Kluber, revenge spot, playing Texas. Texas has been giving the Yankees a hard time. They're creeping. If you notice, they have a 27.3% K rate against righties, Texas. A 158 ISO, 315 WOBA. It doesn't sound astounding, but a 103 WRC plus, which is what runs created. So above average in creating runs. Revenge spot for Kluber. Kluber's kind of looked a little better lately, but his XFIP and Sierra are still a little alarming. Strikeout rate not nearly what it used to be. Perhaps I should have left it. I don't have a lot in the things to watch section, and I probably should have put some of these guys there. So the things to watch section is going to be brief because I probably should have put a couple of these options in there, like Morton, Kluber. We'll move on. Ohtani's on a slate. On DraftKings, I anticipate him being extremely popular. He's got luck working against him too, meaning that he's had luck on his side, and at some point that's going to turn. Cleveland, we saw what they did to Heaney. Put up a ton of runs on him right out the gate. 20.8% strikeout rate. They don't strike out a ton against lefties. Ohtani, however, 36.4% strikeout rate. I think that's the second highest on a slate outside of Corbin Burns. His XFIP has come down to 3.59, which is good. Sierra's still a little high. Ground ball rate is really healthy. 7-4 on DraftKings. I would be stunned if Ohtani was not chalk tomorrow. On FanDuel, he won't be. On DraftKings, I would be stunned if the 7-4 Ohtani was not chalk. So take that for whatever you want to take it as. David Peterson, I was wrong about this guy. Granted, this is a dangerous matchup for him against Atlanta. But I was wrong about this guy. I thought he was absolutely terrible. But 12% swinging strike rate, 29.5% K rate, xFlip and Sierra are solid. He's looked good. Ground ball rate looks good. Maybe he's a little better than I thought he was. And I just go off the numbers, right? Atlanta happens to be holding a 27.5% K rate against lefties. They do have a 183 ISO, making this one of the more polarizing plays on the slate. But a 293 WOBA, and an 82 WRC plus. They've actually been one of the worst offenses in the league against lefties, outside of their power. David Peterson is definitely in the mix. Last but not least, Brad Keller. I'm not a Brad Keller guy. I don't like to play guys that don't get a lot of strikeouts, but he is at home in a very pitcher-friendly park against Milwaukee, who is second to last in WRC plus against righties with a 141 ISO, 283 WOBA, and a 26.3% K rate, despite the fact that they play in a hitter-friendly environment. Well, half their games. And that's going to round it out for our pitchers that stood out, top pitchers, whatever you want to call it. Top offenses, this will be brief, just a few that stood out to me the most. And we are still missing some pitchers, so keep that in mind. But Ross Stripling in the small Dunedin Park kind of stood out to me as a guy that I want to attack, being that he's playing the Boston Red Sox, who have been really good against righties. 186 ISO, 331 WOBA, 109 WRC plus. One of the better teams in the league against righties so far this season. So yeah, I think Boston certainly stands out. Remember, it's a park boost for even Boston, who plays in a hitter-friendly park, to be in this small minor league park down in Florida with heat, humidity, all that good shit. I like the Red Sox. I don't know for sure if Merrill Kelly, we thought he was pitching yesterday. Wasn't the case. He's not listed on the official MLB site, so I don't think the D-backs have committed yet. I think DraftKings and FanDuel are kind of guessing that it's going to be him. If it's him, we will load up on the Dodgers, because he fucking sucks. And the Dodgers happen to be the number one. The Dodgers to righties are like the White Sox to lefties right now. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it. Last but not least, we talked about winds blowing out, right? And we talked about Scherzer pitching in that environment. Well, Jake Arrieta is also pitching in that environment in Wrigley. Jake Arrieta has a 5.01 xFlip, a 4.82 Sierra, both higher than his ERA. Only an 18.7% K rate, and Washington's a tough team to strike out. So you take Washington, only a 144 ISO, 304 WOBA, not looking great, but they put the ball in play. It's 21.9% K rate. In an environment with strong winds blowing out in Chicago, the Windy City, out in Wrigley. I think that the Nationals certainly stand out to me as well. There's other offenses we can go into, but we're going to skip down to the things to watch. Here's something to watch. Logan Gilbert against Detroit. Detroit's been trolly, very trolly, but they do strike out 27.4% of the time against righties. This kid's had some strikeout stuff in the minors. He's making a big step up, right? It's understandable, but he's very cheap, and he's playing Detroit. Question is, what wins out here? He got lit up in his first start. Lit up. Is Detroit a super cheap stack that just goes apeshit on Logan Gilbert? Or is Logan Gilbert a cheap-ass pitcher that can provide some serious value at the position? Things to watch. On the other side of that, Tyreek Skubal does not look good. His numbers are fucking horrendous. He's playing Seattle. Seattle has been the second lowest WRC plus, only in front of Detroit. Against lefties, 29.2% K rate, very high. 166 ISO, they've got a little power. It's not terrible. 268 WOBA, terrible. So what wins out? I think that game in general is kind of like something that stood out to me. And again, I should have put Kluber in this. I should have maybe even put Means and maybe even Scherzer. But we covered them at the top pitchers. So we're going to move on to the Dong Watch. And I'm going with a Red Sox. I'm going with Rafael Devers, lefty, versus the righty. Number one. Number two, I'm going to go with a Nat. I don't want to just blindly say Soto. I'll go Josh Bell. Let's go Josh Bell. Save some money. I don't mind picking like studs, right? Because we're calling home runs on this. But I don't like to always make it like the most expensive fucking guys on the slate. You know what I mean? I'm going back to the Red Sox. And I'm going with see, when you go to the Red Sox at this point, it's hard to get in when it's not expensive. Right? I would go with the Dodger. I just don't have the confirmation that Merrill Kelly is the starter. So, I mean, the starter kind of is important. I'd like to know. So, why don't we go with, all right. Man, I want to say Hunter Renfroe, but I honestly don't know for sure if he's going to be in the lineup. We'll go Alex Verdugo. We'll go Alex Verdugo, the other lefty. I'll cop out and take the lefty. That's what I'll do. That's today's Don Watch. Looks like did see a comment here. Bruce Ross says I keep getting an error. Is YouTube messing up or is it my Wi-Fi? Pat Bush, same thing. I don't know. I don't see anything here, but you guys would know best. I may have to catch it on the rewatch. Don't know, but I appreciate y'all hanging out with me live while we do that dirty to that YouTube. Please hit the like button on your way out. Leave some comments. I want to hear from you guys. Tell me who you like on this slate. Tell me some interesting facts. Put me on a play that I didn't talk about here. Put me on some. And don't forget to check out my article for my final takes at WiseTake.com. I read a core plays article, go over my favorite stacks, pictures for cash games and tournaments. Paulie D does his MLB dirt sheet, which covers all his shit and whatnot. But anyway, Nation, I'm getting out of here. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that good shit for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation. As always, good luck.